Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. I am so glad you're here. If you're a focused learner trying to figure out how modern business is totally shifting gears right now, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're diving into this really fascinating intersection. We're looking at that sweet spot where a deep personal passion for social change meets the massive scale of a global enterprise. We're talking about building organizations that don't just, chase revenue, but actually step up to solve some of the world's absolute toughest problems.
And to do that, we're pulling our insights straight from Chapter 4 of this incredible source material, the 12th edition of Entrepreneurship, Theory, Process, Practice by Donald F. Korotko. This book is honestly a goldmine for understanding the entrepreneurial mindset. But don't worry if you don't have a traditional business background. We're extracting the absolute best takeaways on social entrepreneurship and scaling globally, and breaking them down so they're super easy to digest.
But hey, before we get completely lost in the weeds of global trade, I want you to think about something. What social cause is genuinely most important to you? No, seriously, take a second and think about it. Maybe it's a massive global concern, like access to clean water. Or maybe it's super local, like youth mentorship right in your neighborhood. Do you have one in mind? Awesome. Keep that front and center in your head as we go through this explainer, because what we're going to prove today is that modern business concepts can absolutely be rooted in those exact personal values. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. Number 1, purpose beyond profit. Number 2, measuring real impact. 3, the global marketplace. And finally, 4, entering the international arena. Let's do this. Section 1, purpose beyond profit. Building a business on values. So we are definitely moving away from those old school, traditional, profit-only models and stepping into this really exciting new hybrid world. Just look at the contrast here. Your traditional business, it focuses heavily on personal wealth and pure, unadulterated profit. But social entrepreneurship, it brilliantly takes the private sector's knack for innovation and risk-taking and mashes it up with the mission-driven heart of a nonprofit. The goal isn't just padding a bank account anymore. It's about large-scale transformation and actual social problem-solving. Think of the famous sell one, give one model. You buy a pair of shoes, the company donates a pair. It's all about hardwiring social value right into the DNA of the business model. Now, a super specific and really vital form of this is what our source calls ecopreneurship. Basically, it's environmental entrepreneurship aimed at preserving ecosystems through what they term green capitalism. Which, I know, kind of sounds like an oxymoron, right? But it actually works. It relies on a leadership style known as ecovision. And listen, this is not just about retroactively cleaning up a spill or making sure you recycle the break room printer paper. Ecovision is about proactively designing a business plan to create a sustainable future right from day one. Okay, Section 2. Measuring real impact. How do we know it works? Here's the big question. If personal wealth isn't the main goal here, how does an entrepreneur actually know if they're succeeding? Like, how do we measure what really matters? Well, the secret lies in a concept called the triple bottom line, or TBL. And hey, if you don't have a business background, do not let the accounting jargon scare you off. It's actually a beautiful, highly practical framework. As you can see, TBL goes way beyond that traditional single measure of profit. Instead, it grades success across 3 dimensions: economic, environmental, and social. This completely changes how a company looks at potential new projects, because an initiative literally isn't considered a win unless it balances all 3 of those factors. Let's actually look at how the triple bottom line works out in the real world. Over under economic, we aren't just checking the CEO's quarterly bonus anymore, we're measuring real metrics like regional job growth. Under environmental, we're tracking hard data, things like fossil fuel consumption and solid waste management. And under social, we are looking at tangible community impacts. Think reductions in relative poverty or actual improvements in health-adjusted life expectancy. These specific metrics make absolutely sure a company is measuring and actually being held accountable for its real-world impact on the community. And to make sure companies actually stick to these values, we have something called the Benefit Corporation, or a B Corp. Now, it is absolutely crucial to understand that being a B Corp is not just some clever marketing sticker you slap on your website to look like the good guys. It is a legally recognized, certified, socially sustainable firm. B Corps have a strict fiduciary duty, meaning a very real, very serious legal obligation to consider the interests of their workers, the community, and the environment, not just their shareholders. It demands complete transparency and accountability to a really rigorous third-party standard. No shortcuts allowed. So why does all this corporate structure actually matter? Well, it comes down to the human element right here. Global poverty causes immense financial constraints, substandard literacy, and food insecurity. The source material actually refers to the potential for a new venture to fail due to a poverty background as the liability of poorness. But here's the amazing part. Social entrepreneurship is a powerful, vital tool to overcome that exact liability. By building businesses that genuinely value social impact, entrepreneurs can literally create sustainable, scalable paths out of poverty for vulnerable communities. It's a real game changer.
All right, Section 3, the global marketplace, scaling your impact. So, we are shifting from the micro level of corporate structures up to the macro level. What actually happens when your social enterprise is ready to cross borders and really scale its impact? Well, just take a look at this jaw-dropping number. $17 trillion. That represents the value of goods and services produced every single year just within the USMCA. That's the free trade agreement between the US, Mexico, and Canada. Just let that sink in. When you decide to scale your social cause globally, you're tapping into an economic engine of just unimaginable size and potential.
But to compete on that global stage, you need a very specific mindset. Global entrepreneurs have to be incredibly opportunity-minded, and they really have to rise above nationalistic differences so they can see the big picture. One of the most fascinating tools they use to do this are diaspora networks. Basically, these are global networks of relationships among ethnic groups that share cultural norms. Tapping into these networks can dramatically speed up the flow of information across borders, instantly building this vital trust where it might otherwise take years to establish. And for sure, successful global entrepreneurs don't shy away from challenges. They confront learning difficulties like language barriers head-on.
Moving into our final section, number 4, entering the international arena, making the jump.
Consider this your practical toolkit. You've got your socially conscious business, you've got your new global mindset. So, how do you actually introduce this enterprise to the world? Let's start with the most accessible foundations of international trade: importing and exporting. Importing is simply buying foreign-produced goods and bringing them into your country for domestic consumption. Exporting is just the exact opposite, shipping your domestically produced goods to a foreign destination for them to consume. These are the foundational methods for jumping into the global market, and they're very often a company's absolute first step across a border.
Now, as a company grows, it might need partners, and this brilliantly illustrates how international business alliances escalate in legal complexity pretty fast. Over on the left, an informal cooperative alliance is easy to dissolve and involves zero legal entity. Then in the middle, a formal cooperative involves exchanging proprietary knowledge, which makes it a lot harder to break up because of the legal obligations involved. And finally, on the far right, an internal joint venture requires really deep involvement and the creation of a completely separate legal company, which obviously makes it the absolute most difficult to dissolve.
Let's look a little closer at those joint ventures, because the reality of partnering internationally can get pretty messy. The pros? They're fantastic. You gain immediate, on-the-ground knowledge of local conditions from your foreign partner, you share resources, and you significantly lower your initial capital risk. But then look at the cons. You risk dealing with fragmented management control. You might run into deep clashes of opinion based on different cultural or national backgrounds, and of course there's always the looming nightmare that your partner just unexpectedly withdraws, leaving your social enterprise totally stranded.
So, what if you want total control? Then you move to direct foreign investment. As defined here, this is a heavy-duty global entry strategy where you have a domestically controlled foreign production facility. You basically achieve this by either building a facility from scratch overseas, acquiring an already existing foreign company, or obtaining a majority interest in one. Now, if that sounds a bit too intense, the source material also notes that companies can use licensing. This is just granting a foreign group the rights to manufacture your product in exchange for specified royalties. But look, we've got to be completely impartial here and look at the harsh realities. The global market is vast, yes, but the dangers require some serious due diligence. The major risks generally fall into 4 buckets. You've got political risks, like unstable governments or territorial conflicts, economic risks, like rapid tax shifts or massive strikes, social risks, which include religious conflicts and unequal income distribution, and finally, financial risks, like fluctuating exchange rates that can literally wipe out your bottom line overnight. You really have to go into this with your eyes wide open.
So how in the world do you navigate all of that safely? Well, by actively following these 5 concrete steps for entering the international marketplace. Step 1, conduct thorough market research. Don't skip this. Step 2, prepare a comprehensive feasibility study to see if the idea is actually viable. Step 3, secure adequate financing. Step 4, file all the proper legal and government documents. And finally, Step 5, draw up and implement your plan. It is a highly systematic, rational process that's designed to protect your venture while maximizing your social impact.
Which brings us right back to where we started. I asked you earlier to think of a social cause that is genuinely important to you. Now that you've seen how modern businesses can prioritize purpose way beyond profit, how they measure real-world impact, and how they use strategic entry methods to navigate those huge global risks, I want to leave you with this final thought. If you built a business to solve your social cause, how would you scale it globally to change the world? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. Keep learning, keep focusing on what matters, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.